Okay, so like, what most people haven't put together about how this whole thing is fucked up and how it works, right? Is that so like this? Now they've been always been developing like this generative AI crap in the background back in like the 2010s, and there was like the IBM Watson and Google and Microsoft were doing stuff, but it wasn't really being talked about publicly because all it could do was kind of like gimmicky shit. Like nobody really cared. It was just kind of like research, right? In fact, IBM was a lot more public about their blockchain research, which was really funny at the time. But yeah, then COVID hits, right? And what COVID did, right, was COVID caused a very lopsided economy, at least in the United States. I don't know how it impacted Australia, but it caused a very lopsided economy in several ways. First, certain businesses thrived while others really suffered during COVID. And as a result of that, a lot of, money could be invested in stuff. Interest rates were brought down to try to stimulate the economy to very, very, very low levels, like very low levels. And there was the stimulus packages, and there was also the PP loans, right? And as a result of this, right, a lot of loans were being taken out at very, very low interest rates, right? So you had a lot of money being given out, right? And consumer spending goes up, right? Now, come 2021, 2022, right? I think it was 2022, yeah. 2022, right? A few major things happened. The start of the Russo-Ukrainian war, and this causes a sort of like kind of freak out over certain kinds of resources. I think there was also some stuff going on with like microchips at the same time, and this caused a huge shortage in cars and vehicles, right, in supply. And as a result, the price of vehicles went way up, right? And you can kind of see where this is going. This is encouraging people to take out massive loans, and this is why an average car in the United States, you cannot get a car basically that's new under $20,000 anymore. It's just impossible. There's no brands. They I think Mitsubishi cut the Mirage, and that was the last one. So there's nothing, right? And that's crazy. $20,000 is a lot of fucking money to put down on a car that depreciates value all the time. Like that's kind of a big deal, right? So, and a big thing is that it's very hard to even find a car at that rate because they're putting on a bunch of shit on top of it, and basically, as a result, people are taking out massive, massive loans on every stratum of society, from everyday individuals to these companies, right? And then the COVID boom kind of wears off, right? And what ends up happening is that companies are not able to turn the same profit as they were able to before. We're looking at like around, again, 2022, right? And Elon Musk has a genius idea. Now, the thing is that he bought Twitter as a joke, but also because he's a Nazi and he wanted to basically he loves Henry Ford, right? He does a lot of things. If you know anything about Henry Ford, you see all of it, right? All of the like same proposals, same bullshit. He basically models himself off of Henry Ford. And the one that he's doing here is something called the Dearborn Independent, where he buys a local newspaper for the purpose of racism and propaganda purposes, anti-Semitism, right? Which is crazy. That's exactly what Elon Musk did, several months after buying Twitter, if I recall correctly, if my timeline is correct. So, anyways, the important part here is that he, after acquiring Twitter, he fired a shit ton of people. He fired like tens of thousands of people, right? And not only did he fire those those people. But other companies saw that and they did the same thing. They thought, well, why do we have all these resources? Elon Musk just caught all of them. And Elon Musk is a total moron, and the people who run these companies for the most part are total morons. So they don't understand why they have those assets. Like, those people are getting paid to do nothing because they have valuable skills that, you know, they can just pull whenever they need, right? They basically control the entire tech market. That's why they're paying that, right? So they let that all go, and now the tech market is flooded with resumes, right? Flooded with FAANG resumes. Now people in tech cannot compete, right? So like this happened right after I got that shitty job that drove me crazy, and as a result of that, I couldn't, you know, get a job anywhere else. It was basically impossible. You were competing suddenly with just tens of thousands of resumes when before it was like nothing, right? And this is what started to cause this sort of cascade of sawing off employees, because companies didn't stop there, right? If you actually pay attention, companies have been shedding employees like a fucking dog sheds hair in the summer, like for the last few years, right? They want you to believe that AI is replacing their jobs, right? And there's a reason for that, right? The people who are selling AI to these guys, right? So what's happening, right, is as they cut people, they're realizing, oh, our operations now suck ass. I can't figure this out, guys. Why do our operations suck ass, right? Well, we are losing so much labor that we cannot sustain the business, right? So what do? They are thinking to themselves, we need a solution. This is where AI comes in, and this is also why, like, most AI is modeled around, like, business use cases, like, that just basically automate or replace employees, especially, like, those in, like, they're trying to make roles that they think that they can automate with language redundant, right? And there's two reasons why AI wants to do this. First off, how do you think Silicon Valley got so powerful? Silicon Valley got so powerful by forcing every business and every economy to embed into their technology pipeline, their software, their hardware, their bullshit, right? I literally witnessed how this happened when I worked at IBM. IBM sold this shitty software to a bunch of fucking businesses so that they could basically sustain, like, a bunch of income from just forcing them to use licenses, because now their business is dependent on this software that they've integrated into it. It's a very parasitic model, right? And this is essentially what AI wants to do to the entire economy. They believe that, and there's a lot of weird cult beliefs that are behind this, right? Part of what's weird about me is that because I'm kind of an expert on Guattari, I have a very uncomfortable proximity to this shit, and I'm very aware of all the crap that they're doing. Well, not all of it, but I'm very aware of its presence. Not comfortable to be this close to this kind of shit, right? But basically, right, they believe that language, right, because LLMs can produce language, like, autonomously, right, and they believe that language can essentially instruct reality to some extent, right? They believe that reality can essentially be automated through these machines. And so what they're trying to do is they're trying to essentially force everybody to put as much money towards them as possible so that they can control everything through automation of AI, right? That's why they want to. That's why they keep saying all these claims about, oh, what about? This is why I hate the AI safety people, because their whole thing is they work for the same companies that they're criticizing. Why? Because they are trying to construct a narrative. They're trying to basically say, oh, well, us safety experts, we think that AI should be regulated because it's so powerful, it will control every industry. Yeah, why are they saying that? Why are they saying all of these unsubstantiated claims about medicine, about cybersecurity, Anthropic, aka posting their own fucking source code online a few months ago because they're so fucking good at fucking safety, Yeah, give me a fucking break, brother. What this is all about is accumulating so many fucking resources, right? That they can basically control political power of the world, right? You're right to be upset about what they are doing with art, but it has nothing to do with piracy, and it has everything to do with politics and understanding our relationship to power. They are trying to change the world right in front of us, right? And this is part of the reason why I've been trying to, get the word out there and inform people, right? I want to tell you a scary story. In Michigan, right, where I'm from, there is a place called Saline. It is kind of a upper middle class area of white people in the Ypsilanti area, right? And if you know anything about Michigan, Michigan has a very, strong racial politics, right? So the big division. And so Saline is kind of like a well-off area, but they just have about 9,000 people living in this little area, right? Saline voted to not have a data center placed in their city, right? They voted no. They had a bunch of protests. The city made it very clear. No means no. And yet OpenAI is building anyway. In fact, they are suing the city over the decision. And they're suing in such a way that the city literally cannot defend themselves. That's the state that we are in, right? So piracy is not the problem. They want you to believe piracy is the problem because they want to own everything. And they're very much on their way to do so. And it's just kind of funny because all of it falls apart on the user interface. That's why they get pissed when I tell them my shit. And that's why I think that accessibility is so important, because accessibility is actually where the revolution is of technology, right? AI is in very important development, but until we revolutionize our relationship to the interface of machines, we're not going anywhere. And, these people want you to believe that we're automating humans out of existence, but what we're really automating is our own domestication to these vile people. Vile people.